Luffy's crazy Sun God Destiny revealed, the shocking end of Kuma's backstory, and the hype return to Egghead, and more happen in this insane chapter, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Chill the Pirate King within and smash that like button if you enjoy seeing One Piece reviews like this one and want to keep them coming. Make this the video you join the Nakama by subscribing so you don't miss future reviews and updates. You're also helping us get closer to our insane goal of 2 million subscribers here on YouTube. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. So we left off last chapter with the absolutely insane moment where Kid Bonnie took out a skilled Cypherpole agent using the move Distorted Future, which changed everything and revealed she had one of the most broken devil fruits in the series, if not the most broken. Let me know your thoughts on the most broken fruit in the series, but think about how crazy this one is. Using Distorted Future, she could create a Nika-like future for herself, and by doing so, she can manifest the power of the mythical zone Nika fruit. She uses an attack similar to Luffy's Gear 3, and the giant pumped up arm knocks Alpha out, and after she kept those letters from Kuma and made Bonnie doubt Kuma's love, that punch could not have been more satisfying. So despite the fact that she's young, Bonnie is already established as a very strong character with even stronger potential. So accordingly, this chapter starts with Bonnie's journey after escaping from Alpha. The now Bonnie pirates were traveling to an island searching for Kuma, and he was there, but sadly when the Bonnie pirates arrive, Kuma has already warped away. Kuma is aware that Bonnie is looking for him, but he decides that he can't meet her. After all, that would be putting her life in danger. We're then told a detail I love. It said that because the Bonnie pirates always left tons of injured kids and elderly after their attacks, they were believed to be really evil pirates. Of course, though, we know that this was Bonnie's age fruit at work, and the so-called kids and elders were actually Marines transformed by Bonnie's powers. So from the sound of this, it seems like Bonnie's powers can last for quite a long time, so that does also support the idea that Oda may make her use her abilities on Luffy if he needs a power boost at some point in the future, turning him into Prime Luffy. We already saw a similar thing with Momo, so seeing a Prime Luffy in Gear 5 is looking more and more possible. Then when you consider what kind of Distorted Future upgrades she could add, things just get beyond crazy. Again, definitely a strong contender for most broken devil fruit for a single fighter, but even more so if you had it on a crew. Hashtag Bonnie for Straw Hat. We then cut to Luffy. As we know, Kuma has also been keeping an eye on Luffy and his progress, knowing he's Dragon's son. Before we saw a 16-year-old Luffy practicing Gum Gum Battle Axe, the move he used to eventually beat Arlong, which was such an awesome moment to get. And now we see when Luffy got his first bounty. I gotta say, this really reminds me of some time travel in fiction that I've seen, in a good way. Even like the Christmas Carol, for example, where someone just travels back in time and sees all this stuff from their past. Of course, this isn't actually time travel for Kuma, but it feels the same because we saw all of these moments before, and now through Kuma, we are revisiting them from this new vantage point, and I love it. It not only reminds me of these epic moments again, but it lets us appreciate them more knowing everything we know now. We also see Ace, Jinbei, and Sabo's reactions as well. After that, during the Enies Lobby incident, Kuma visits Vegapunk in Egghead Island. Vegapunk shows him an army of pacifistas being produced, and they talk about the Enies Lobby incident. Keep in mind, Dragon told Kuma not to talk about Luffy because a child is a parent's weakness, as he said. But he does tell Vegapunk since Vegapunk will find out either way through his memories. Thus, it's useless to hide. Vegapunk, for his part, can't believe Luffy is Dragon's son. Now, Luffy is special to him since he's obviously close to his father, Dragon, too. I love how Oda just keeps fleshing out all of these character dynamics and relationships. Even though we've been hearing about Vegapunk for so long and Luffy just met him, it turns out they actually were connected and had history in multiple ways. And we got a similar thing with Kuma. Who would have thought this character would be so deep and lovable when he was first introduced? Anyways, Kuma says it's curious how a boy with rubber powers is going against the world government, just like the legendary Nika. And Vegapunk laughs, saying that's true. So already Kuma is touching on Luffy's Sun God Destiny, but it will get much more specific and much crazier later on. We then jump to the Thriller Bark incident, and we see it from Kuma's point of view. In other words, Kuma sees the Straw Hat crew fighting Moria, and after the incident, Kuma receives a Den Den Mushi call with the order to prepare for war against Whitebeard. We then cut to Sabaody, where both Bonnie and Luffy are, so Kuma's interests intersect here. It makes sense he'd be here. We see Bonnie's intro scene again, and now we discover that Kuma was actually hiding outside the restaurant, looking at Bonnie through a window and smiling. Kuma says she has grown into a strong pirate, and although he doesn't want to meet her and risk her safety even more, it's nice that he appeared to be watching over her as long as he could. Kuma then hears about the incident with the Celestial Dragon. He warps to the human auction roof immediately and looks inside. Kuma is shocked when he discovers that Luffy punched a Celestial Dragon to protect a fishman, who are even viewed as being below humans in the world government status hierarchy. Part of me just wants to rewatch One Piece so I can be like, oh yeah, so Kuma was there watching at this moment for every one of these moments. Also, if I watch it with a One Piece version, meaning someone who's never watched One Piece before, I can just think to myself, haha, you have no idea Kuma's watching this or even who he is. But yeah, we totally do have a One Piece version podcast, so check that out, link in the description. Anyways, I love what Kuma says here. He says about Luffy punching the world noble, this is a rebellious act that no one has been able to do for centuries. For Kuma, it seems with every new time he sees Luffy, he's given more evidence that this guy is like Nika, the warrior of liberation. And once again, it emphasizes how big of a deal that punch actually was, how it shocked the world of One Piece. Also, I must say, don't you think it's time for the man who committed this rebellious act, as Kuma calls it, to join forces with the Revolutionary Army, the most rebellious of organizations? Come on, Oda, stop teasing it and just have Dragon show up at Egghead already. Dragon should want to help Bonnie for Kuma's sake as well, not just Luffy. Then we see the Saboti incident, aka Kizaru Sentomaru and the Pacifistas versus the Straw Hats, but this time from Kuma's point of view. We get to the point where Luffy is shattered. He says, I couldn't save them, not a single one of my Nakama. Kuma thinks to himself that that's not true at all. They all just aren't ready yet for the new world. He says, do not come until you are ready, because you are a man who might one day save the world, end quote. And so yes, we finally come to the point where in black and white, even Luffy, the guy who seemed to always just do his own thing and not care about being labeled the good guy, is being positioned as the person destined to save the world here. Now, is that kind of predictable for a battle shown in manga? Yes, but I respect in the sense that saving the world just seems to be a byproduct of Luffy being Luffy. He's not like, I'm gonna save the world. He's just gonna end up accidentally doing it, so to speak, while pursuing his own dreams. Now to Egghead Island in the flashback, and Saturn orders Vegapunk to put an additional self-destruct switch on Kuma just in case. Vegapunk tries in vain to negotiate for other methods that will allow Kuma to retain his consciousness, but Saturn insists on his mind being wiped. And he says something very important here. He says, I'm also a scientist. It's useless to try to lie to me, Vegapunk, end quote. Now yes, we did know that he was titled the warrior god of science and defense, but still, knowing he's an actual bona fide scientist as well makes a lot of sense, and also explains why he's playing such a big role here during Vegapunk's arc. On the last day of his normal free will life, just before the Paramount War, Kuma and Vegapunk say goodbye to each other. Vegapunk programmed Kuma to fight the Whitebeard pirates in the war, but also Kuma asked Vegapunk to program him to protect the Thousand Sunny too. Kuma says he would love to see Straw Hat's growth, but since he can't do it, at least he wants to protect their home. Vegapunk finally asks Kuma, why do you have so much faith in Luffy? And Kuma says, I know Nika is just a legend, but I promised Bonnie that one day a warrior of liberation will come to free her. Luffy's actions moved me. I think he's a man who might end up changing the seas one day. Wow, this is amazing. So Kuma pretty much situates Luffy as Nika here, which works perfectly since he ate that fruit, but also it sets up the present events perfectly, as literally Nika is about to free Bonnie and, of course, as Kuma says, eventually change the seas. Out of all people, Kuma chose to bet on Luffy, and he definitely made the right bet. Kuma then gives his memory to Vegapunk as promised. His memories though are like a copy of the original one, so Kuma doesn't forget anything by pulling it out with his powers. Also, the memory will disappear when someone touches it, so Vegapunk develops a system to observe and study it without touching the memory sphere itself. And I gotta say, if Kuma's memories could be duplicated like this, then what's to say that Vegapunk didn't find a way to store them before Bonnie touched them? Or what if Kuma could extract a copy of something else too, like his soul or something? There are a lot of possibilities, so I wouldn't count Kuma out just yet. Like I said, my dude deserves a happy ending after everything he's been through. At the very least, let him be inside the ancient robot, aka the Iron Giant. Anyways, as Kuma pulls out his memories in the flashback, we see Kuma's entire life flashing before him and all the faces of the people he loved, including his dad, his mom, Ivankov, Ginny, and of course, Bonnie. Then in a very emotional scene, we see Vegapunk pulling a machine's lever in tears. Totally reminds me of a Frankenstein creating Frankenstein's monster kind of situation here, but obviously more emotional. The machine starts to erase Kuma's consciousness, there are rays of light shining on Egghead, just like in Kuma's church when he took damage from people. All of the scientists and Setomaru are praying and saluting together. And getting scientists to pray is just always an impressive feat, and goes to show how great of a character and person Kuma was. The flashback then ends, and in the NICU room, we see that the sphere with Kuma's memory is gone and Bonnie is crying on the floor. The chapter ends with Kuma's final words that he asked Vegapunk to tell Bonnie. Kuma says, and I quote, "Happy 10th birthday, Bonnie," end quote. And wow, this has got to be one of, if not the best backstories in One Piece. The way it fleshed out Kuma's character and set up the present events is just insane. I never thought I'd care so much about Kuma, but thanks to this masterful backstory, I do, and same goes for Bonnie. And if you enjoyed this one, then you won't want to miss my recent video about Zoro and Sanji's Devil Fruits. Link on screen right now. Like and subscribe to help us reach 2 million subscribers here on YouTube, and I'll see you in the next one.